Good day, beautiful souls. I hope your day is flowing well. The past weekend and the past week has been partly and mostly peaceful, but we still have that chaoticness as we continue to see this conflict between Israel and Iran continue. A conflict that was predicted in my past predictions from last year. So, how much longer is this conflict going to last? And what good could come? We're going to talk about a lot of what good can come today. Are the bad guys in Iran actually fleeing, as they're telling us, to Russia? That's what some news reports say. Well, that's what they're telling us. They certainly are fleeing, many of them, but not all to Russia, according to Team Spirit. I was told by Spirit that they're going somewhere else, a couple different places, and I'm going to feed you in on what that is and what their next plan is. At the same time, we're being told that there are radiation leaks and even an earthquake that was reported in Iran, right where their underground nuclear facility is. And apparently, obviously, if there was an earthquake there, it was hit. So, does this bring my past prediction of seeing the symbol for radiation coming into fruition? All this while we're not really hearing very much about the whole Russian Ukraine thing. It's all been focused on Israel this past week. Even though, that too has escalated. They may not be telling us, but it has, just as the spirits told us it would. But now Putin is extremely nervous. But why would he be so nervous? He should probably be pretty nervous. And if you don't know why, I'll tell you today. And what will this all mean when it comes to gas and oil prices when you're at the pump this summer, and even more so when we get to the winter months? Remember, I saw visions of oil and gas places being hit and set ablaze on fire. We're seeing this in Iran right now. Is it going to spread? And will we soon be paying a heck of a lot more money at the pump and to heat our homes when the wintertime comes? Over the past weekend, likely over 1 million people took to the streets across the United States of America for what was most part 97-98% peaceful. Until, of course, nighttime approaches. It's always as nighttime approaches. Have you noticed that? In cities like Chicago, Vegas, Seattle, Utah, up there in Utah, there was a pow pow at the one of the protests. And, of course, Los Angeles, California. But, the media wants you to think that nothing negative played out. The big question here really is, will these protests and even future rioting continue? And what good is to come from any of it, if any good at all? And I warned on Friday to stay away from roads, right? To stay away from roads and to watch for these crazed individuals who suddenly decide to use their vehicles as weapons. Well, that was an understatement. I said that on Friday, and over the weekend, there was over a dozen incidents of folks using vehicles as ramming devices. But, of course, they won't tell you about that either. Of course they won't. Well, I'm not going to show you either because it's pretty disturbing, but it did play out. So, what we all really do want more than anything is the truth, right? Don't we, tribe? We just want the truth. That's all. Now, I have been warning, and just warned again on Friday, of upcoming assassinations and assassination attempts. And I've been seeing this fallout of, these many people falling from power for quite some time, and even made predictions around attacks coming on politicians and even company heads. And I said that before the whole thing happened in New York with the healthcare CEO. And we saw that play out. And over the weekend, sadly, 2 representatives here in the United States and their spouses were also gunned down by a crazed man who apparently has a list of folks that he already had in his crosshairs. Luckily, he's been caught. This is both really sad, very tragic, and kind of a bit cray-cray, friends. Really cray-cray. Will we see more of this in the near future? And is there others connected to this guy's list? Like other guys, that might have part of that plan. Was he acting alone? And it was not that long ago that I predicted major plane crash would occur in India. I also felt that the number 247 would somehow be connected to this plane crash in India. Sadly, we're all aware of this very tragic plane crash in India where it appeared that the plane just literally fell out of the sky into a residential building, sending 242 of the 243 passengers to the heavenly realms. And how about that one survivor? What a miracle that was, especially his seat number. So are we once again about to see more issues with the skies and all this stuff that's happened with airplanes and control centers? What good will come from it? Believe it or not, a lot of good's going to come from it. Major flooding took place in two places that I warned, Texas over the weekend and China, Wuhan, China to be exact. Remember Spirit saying something about karma, weather in China? And not only that, we have the sun that's about to blast us once again as summer solstice or winter solstice, depending on what side of the planet you live on, is about to approach in a few more days. And from that point forward, friends, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. And speaking of skies, interesting things that have been spotted in the skies, including two moons. Remember my prediction about two moons? So is it real or is it fake? We're going to take a look at that today, along with the rescue of over 100 little ones and the arrest of over 200 creepers. Hallelujah for that. That was also in my June forecast and predictions. So lots to discuss today, so get that kettle whistling, friends. This is episode number 171 of Tuesday's Teatime, baby. Welcome aboard once again, beautiful tribe. Tuesday, June 17th, 2025, and solstice is heading our way in just a few more days. Always welcoming in these new energies and shifts, something we certainly need after some of the chaos that's been playing out across the globe just over the past week. Right after the full moon energy, remember I warned about that energy? And then we had the protest that kicked in after that, and the rioting and all that, just as Spirit warned. Well, we're going into this slight quiet window before we go into the very loud window coming up. Not that it's going to really seem to appear much quieter. But luckily, the energies that flowed in prior to this weekend were actually more laid back and chilled. I had a pretty laid back and chill weekend. I don't know about y'all. Otherwise, things could have actually gone completely mad. Like they kind of did over there to our friends in Ireland. And today we have Mars entering into the sign of Virgo, which is going to be all about grounded action and precision. As we Virgos, yes, that is my sun sign, we are very precise in most aspects of our lives. Most. Not all, but most. Mars is the planet of drive and assertion, moving into this detailed oriented sign of Virgo, again, basically giving us all this green light to literally clean up our lives. I mean, literally and metaphorically. Whatever that may look like for yourself. It's different for all of us. But remember, it's physically, energetically, and emotionally. And that's what this alignment shooting in today is going to do for us, this transit. It's all about precision from this point forward, friends. Accompanied by this desire that you will have to serve, to heal, and to improve different aspects of your lives, and maybe even help improve different aspects of other people's lives in the world. The world's really needing it. And on the world stage, this transit's going to bring in this heightened focus on public health when it comes to workers' rights and even our infrastructures globally. Likely, we're going to see the protests that are going to turn into more striking workers, not just protests over immigration or what have you, but protests over people being frustrated at their jobs, companies, or corporations. Walkouts due to, lack of worker rights. That's about to hit really hard, especially through these summer months. While the infrastructure is going to come into focus with this surge in environmental cleanup efforts. What does that mean, friends? This brings into the question, could this actually be a sign of some type of incoming disaster over the next month, over the next couple of weeks? Because that's what this whole transit's all about. This transit brings with it this whole attitude of more analysts, I can say the word, analysts and criticism when it comes to government policies and government inefficiencies, which is also kind of needed. And even when it comes to mishandled crisis situations. That's what all this transit represents. So this could easily play out, for example, with the ongoing protests here in the United States or globally that become very mishandled, for example, by law enforcement or even by the government. Or maybe some other type of crisis, hurricane, earthquake, what have you, that ends up being majorly mishandled. We're going to have to see how that plays out. That'll play out probably between now and, say, July 5th, that window of time that Spirit gave us. We're heading into that solstice. It's going to be interesting. But the solstice is all about letting that light shine again, friends, right? It shows on the other side of the planet, it's the darkest day of the year. Why here, it's the lightest day of the year. The balance of both, light and dark. That's the only way you get juice out of a battery, right? If you have a battery, it's equal polarities of positive and negative. So our body's a battery. Our thoughts, our energy, our vibrations, all a battery. And without that equal polarity, we're either too much positive, where it's going to blow up in our faces, or too much negative, where we're not getting any energy at all. And that's how really the whole world revolves around those positive, negative, masculine, feminine energies. We just lost balance of that over many, many generations, friends. Many, many generations. So it'll be interesting because this transit in Mars entering Virgo also makes for a great time to clean up all the clutter. Reorganize. I know you must have a closet or a garage or an attic or something like that needs some cleaning out. So take this transit and this window of time as a time to clean up the clutter, friends. Reorganize, implement sustainable routines, and work on your health. Health is always important. And do so, just do all of this with devotion. Devote yourself to it so that you make sure you get it done and take advantage of this window while it's still open. I also would mention that the emotional energy, yeah, that's pretty extreme, friends. That's off the charts. This week, even starting today, yeah, off the charts when it comes to emotions. And when we see emotions running off the charts, we're going to see people acting out those emotions. And that's not always really a good thing, friends. Not always a good thing. So make sure that you stay grounded and channel your emotions into something positive. If you're angry, go for a run or punch a punching bag. If you're sad, go watch a sad movie and let it all out. You got to let those emotions out, friends. But you got to let them out in a positive form, not by acting out or reacting to others. Now, the sun's entrance into Cancer and the kickoff of the solstice season is going to begin on the 20th this year. It's usually the 21st. But this is all going to be the turning point for all of us when it comes to illumination. Increased intuition. Your intuition is going to be off the charts. And a sense of sacredness. This Cancer season that we're stepping into on the 20th is really going to have us asking these questions. What are you protecting? And what really truly nourishes your soul? Because we need to nourish our souls, body, mind, and spirit. So the solstice season is marking off this time to return home to yourself. To yourself, and not in a selfish way, please. Definitely not. It's a time to strengthen your family and your family bonds, and also to connect to your inner truths. We got lots of them there, and now's the time to access that, the intuition. So I would tell you to take some time to meditate on the solstice. It's literally an open portal on the 20th, friends. A literal open portal, I can talk, to receiving knowledge and information from your guides, your angels, your ancestors. It's even a time where you could receive messages from deceased loved ones. And a time where the light's going to shine ever so brightly. Now, this gives me a reminder. I think I said this last week or maybe in June's forecast, but there's this period, likely now, where paranormal activity is going to heighten quite a bit, which means activity in our skies is going to heighten. That may appear paranormal. Paranormal is basically not knowing, hidden, right? Hidden. Somewhat hidden, not understanding. So it's going to be interesting. So pay attention to all that stuff. Pay very, very close attention. Write things down. And again, take time to meditate. It's really, really, really important. Also, what was I going to say? Spirit also reminds us all that major sun flare activity is also going to be kicking in this coming week. So signs from the heavens and signs from the sun himself. And this is also going to intensify the emotions with this activation that's coming through the sun. An activation to this new level of truth that's soon going to be exposed as this month comes to a close and we step into the month of July. Major truths. And I know we've been saying it, but you just hold on tight, friends. This month of July coming up is going to be the most intense month of 2025. So hold on tight, friends. We're only just now taking off. Beautiful tribe, I want to take a moment to welcome you back to the channel. And if you are new here, welcome to the channel. And if you want accurate predictions, prophecy, and truth, and you want to vibe with this awesome tribe, please do smash the subscribe so that you become a part of our tribe and you can mingle with us, because I'm here every week, Tuesdays, sometimes Wednesdays, depending on where in the world you may reside. I try to get it out every Tuesday evening. As long as there's not a Mercury retrograde that causes delays. And that won't be till July. We step into the pre-shadow of that Mercury retrograde on the 30th of this month. I'll talk all about that in the July forecast. It'll likely be out next week. I would assume we're almost through this month already. I cannot believe it. Please do give a thumbs up. Click on that thumbs up button so we can get this out to more people and help this tribe to grow. And also, so more content like this pops up on your feed. That's how you make it happen. That's how you get the algorithms to show you similar content. Click the thumbs up on the stuff you like. Pretty simple. And it helps the channel and helps the tribe too. Down below in the description, you'll find the links to all my social media, including the supporters at the Subscribe Star Awaken Your Spirit community who help make this free content possible for everybody else. You can join that community, the community on YouTube down below, and all the supporters who make this possible. Again, I thank you with infinite love and gratitude. I couldn't do it without you. Also, check out me on the other platforms, Spotify, Rumble, TikTok, where I've been putting all the short videos of predictions, so that's where you want to look. I only put a few on YouTube because it just doesn't seem to work as well on YouTube as it does on TikTok. Sometimes Instagram, but Instagram's disappointing. I could put a short on Instagram, the same one on Instagram and TikTok. On TikTok, I'll get 200 new followers. On Instagram, I get followers. Yeah, Zuckerberg don't like me very much. You know, they program them algorithms and put red flags next to you if they don't like you. That's why they took away my page of 35,000 followers on Facebook. But we won't even go into that. What else did I want to tell you? Beware, speaking of social media platforms, of phonies that tend to pretend to be other people. They steal pictures and basically duplicate your profile, text and message other people under your name and try to fool them into some type of scam. If you get any message, direct message on any platform, it is not me. The only way to communicate with me directly is on my website, josephtittel.com, Tittel, or spiritmanjt.com. So check it out, and let's move on to episode 171 of Teatime, baby. Well, friends, let's kick it off with the craziest or the most intense of this past week's events and predictions coming into fruition once again. We saw Israel mass a huge attack on Iran and their nuclear facilities, which I would think there'd be some kind of rule against that. Not that anybody follows rules, but that's dangerous. That is extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. And I'm not sticking up for Iran at all, but believe you me, I am not. But anybody. Think about it. If Ukraine was to do that, or vice versa, or Russia to Ukraine, that would be just horrific. Absolutely horrific. That could cause, another Chernobyl times 10. We don't need that. But, the missiles continue to fly between both nations. All four nations, speaking of which. And this is something I saw going all the way back to December 2024. This is what I said last.
Visions of a large explosion, as I have in the past, around Tel Aviv. As I stated again in past predictions, I also see a sky filled with missiles. Major, and large explosions. I saw visions of large explosions in and around Iran. And I also feel that Saudi Arabia will somehow, I don't know how, but they're going to crawl into this web of darkness, this conflict over the Middle East. I also see something major hitting Libya and Syria. I don't know what, but something major. Could be a big boom boom. And something huge lights up the skies for hundreds of miles. I expect this could be Israel using some type of a nuclear device against their enemies. Let's hope this is not the case. but it's looking more and more likely that that will be the case.
One thing that I believe is for sure, if Iran did have a nuclear weapon, I would have no doubt that they would have likely launched that by now. So hallelujah that they do not. And I kind of felt like they did, or they were on the edge of it. But China's kind of interfering here. I just saw an article and read an article on Epic News that there was a cargo going from China to somewhere, Turkestan, I believe it was. And then it shut off its tracker and went into Iran. So I don't know what they're delivering, but they're delivering something. And remember, I saw symbols of the radiation symbol in visions. And now there's actually reports coming out of Iran that show that a major threat of radiation is leaking from a plant hit by Israel missiles. This is not at all good for our planet. But at the same time, we don't know what to believe. Because they just literally, both sides, all sides of the freaking chessboard put out propaganda constantly. You have to use your intuition. It's part of the light codes and part of us awakening. Many people are onto the truth. But there's so many more that are just completely blindfolded still. We need that to change. And it will. Because this is not good for our planet. And there's likely this mass exodus that's already happening of people that are fleeing Tehran and other parts of Iran. Something that I also saw in visions and past predictions. Very sad for those folks that are in that line of fire and in the middle of a battlefield. That's sad. That can happen to any of us. Always remember that. So feel bad for both sides. Don't take a side. Feel bad for both sides. And remember, and it's not the people. It's not the Iranians. It's not the majority of the Israelis. It's the governments. And it's just sad. The whole thing's very, very sad. Sad for everybody. And they did not ask for this. Nobody asked for this. It was all just, especially Iran, which was very much a dictator state, unfortunately. But again, when you're in a dictator state, you can't blame the people. You can only blame the leaders. I know some pretty nice Iranian people, actually, come to think of it. So they also, and Israelis in every other country. I know people from a lot of countries, come to think of it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not the people. It's the leaders. It's the darkness, the web, the big spider that rules that web. But anyway, there are also many leaders with Iran's regime that are now allegedly fleeing, and I'm sure they probably are. They're telling us that they're all, running to Russia, but I actually feel that that's absolutely not true. That is not the truth. Again, probably propaganda. I feel that, yes, there are many fleeing, and they're doing so with assistance, according to Spirit. And believe it or not, a majority of them are fleeing to Turkey, says the Spirits. And there were a few that fled to Pakistan. Except now Pakistan has closed their borders to Iran. It doesn't mean, leaders or military people can't get across. I mean, they're all in cahoots, I would imagine. I could be wrong. But we are also being told in the United States that Netanyahu asked for permission from Trump to take out the Ayatollah, and Trump allegedly said no. Is that more propaganda? Because honestly, if you look at the whole thing, both the Ayatollah was targeted, and so was the residents of Netanyahu. So they targeted each other. That's what you do in a conflict, I would imagine. I haven't fought one, don't want to. But I would imagine you go after the leaders, right? It just makes sense to me. And I told you all in past predictions that both would be targets, Netanyahu and the Ayatollah. And I also told you that Netanyahu would survive the first attempt at least, but the Ayatollah would not be as lucky. So this brings me to my predictions and warning that we would see a lot of people fall out of power. Right? Power struggles, power changes, and a whole lot of folks just being taken out or attempts to take them out. It's sad. That's what people will do for a little bit of power, friends. So back to the Middle East conflict, it won't take long for both Israel, with the United States' help, of course, to pretty much level Iran to a certain extent. They've already done a heck of a job at it. And Israel will get their wishes fulfilled by getting some type of new power installed in Iran. But here's where I get the information from the Spirit. Spirit says, yeah, they may get their way, but I see power struggles and lots of manipulation that's coming out of Iran. And I feel that there's basically a narcissist with multiple personalities playing multiple roles, which is going to turn on Israel in the future. So how I took that from Spirit was basically he's going to play him. Play him like, I'm on your side, let's make this better, blah, blah, blah. And then down the line, he's going to turn. That's the vibe I got. Which could make a lot of sense, too, to some of the prophecies. Now, this very well and very likely is where we will soon witness the prophecy of the 7-year peace treaty come in. And the rise up of the anti-Jesus. That's in the prophecies. And remember Spirit told us that we would see the rise of the anti-Jesus in 2025? Well, we're halfway through almost. And I believe he, the one, the anti-dude, is going to come out of Turkey. I've said it all along. I don't turn back on predictions unless Spirit changes something, which is extremely rare. So if this does fall into place, then therefore the peace treaty would be signed sometime soon, in accordance to the prophecy. But also in accordance to the prophecy, it only lasts 3.5 years before the anti-Jesus goes back on his word, which would place us in the year 2029. That's another year that Spirit's been pointing to for quite some time, 2029, as giving me a feeling that it will be extremely intense. Kind of like a combination of 2020 and a few other things, all happening all over. That's going to be interesting. But that's still a ways off. We'll be there before you know it, but it's still a ways off. Lots can happen between now and then. And Spirit shows me that these bad guys that are fleeing Iran are actually joining forces outside the walls of Iran with others within their organization. And that they will continue to plan and continue to try to attack all others outside of their belief system and their desires to control. And now we also, that Spirit just said a couple went to Syria as well. A couple are heading towards Syria. It's like almost like they split up in at least 3 or 4 different groups. By plan. Like I feel like this is by plan. Interesting. So we also have the United Kingdom and France speaking out recently that places them right in the targets of these coming fear attacks, because that's what this is going to lead to again. The whole fear attack thing. Oh my God, terror. That's what they're going to put out in the media next. You watch. Hold on tight. And this is going to bring about fear attacks throughout the globe. Not just one place. France, England, United Kingdom, United States. Several others are going to be dealing with this. And as I've been saying for a while now, at least a year, maybe 2 years, is sleeper cells. I might have even been saying that for about 3 years. They're there. We know it. Now even the FBI is even mentioned to be aware that there are likely sleeper cells put here into place from Iran, in China, and probably Russia too. Remember, Spirit said they have a plan, a big plan, all of them gathered together. So we need to hold in the light that plan does not unfold for them. And if they try to unfold it, it gets crumbled up and thrown in the garbage right away. But sleeper cells and these bad guys really wish to harm civilians and worshipers that worship opposite of what they worship. So this sadly is going to open up the door for attacks when it comes to religious structures, synagogues, churches, and so forth. And it'll probably be mutual. It'll probably be even, what are they called? I just drew a blank. But where the Muslims worship, it'll probably be them too. Because, of course, it'll have to be back and forth. The globalists want it that way. More and more division, friends. Don't plug into the divide. Just don't do it. And these people just wish harm on others. It's sad. Love one another. Just like Bob Marley sang, love one another right now. Anyway, they say that they destroyed ISIS and such. But I had this vision this morning, and today's actually Monday. I'm always recording Monday. It's just after 6 p.m. here in beautiful, gorgeous Sedona, Arizona, and it is hot like crazy out. Well, it's not so bad now. I think it's 85, which is pretty hot for 6 o'clock. But it's hot. But it's Arizona. That's why I moved here. It's not a bad thing. I like the heat, just as long as it ain't past 100. Now, Phoenix, that's a little ridiculous. I wouldn't want to live there. It's way too hot. Triple digits is not for me. But 90s, I can handle that. So they say they destroyed ISIS and such, but I had this vision of spirit that showed me today that reminded me of the Obama administration. You know, the videos that we've seen on the telly and such with the ISIS groups riding through the deserts with their Toyotas, you know, probably paid for by America, waving their black flags, heavily armed, you know, and even shooting into the skies. I had that vision. It just took me back to the Obama administration, to those times. Not necessarily Obama. It had nothing to do with him. It just had to do with ISIS. Oh, maybe it did have to do with him. We will find out the truth in the future. But it appears to me that they were on this huge mission according to my vision. And there sure were a heck of a lot of them, friends, in my vision. So I don't know where they were heading or what they were doing, but I just had that vision of that today. So they're not gone. Don't let them tell you they're gone. No, they are not. They're joining with other groups, Spirit says. I also feel, as a last-minute decision, that a tactical nuke is going to be used. I said it before, and I still feel it's on the table, unfortunately, and I feel that we may actually see two in all. And it could be that one, I felt that one's going to be an attempted cover-up, you know, saying, oh, it wasn't that. You know, they'll try to say it wasn't that, it was what it hit, until, you know, radiation levels come up. Then they won't be able to deny it. And one could be launched by Israel, and the other one could actually be launched by Putin or NATO. Could actually be NATO, because NATO's doing some gathering around and doing some planning. And speaking of NATO and Putin, he's been hiding out in his bunker, according to, I don't know, is it propaganda? But he's hiding out. He probably is hiding out in his bunker. If I was him, I'd be hiding out in my bunker too, knowing very well that he's likely the next target of these global assassins, big time. He has been. They just haven't been able to get to him as easy as they are trying to get to the Ayatollah. And look at all the leaders that were taken out in Iran. They hit an apartment building where they all were. Yeah, military leaders and what have you. So all, you know, Putin hiding out, Spirit shows he's doing that all while NATO is strategizing this new attack on Russia's infrastructure, including inside attacks within Moscow, excuse me. And I see what appears to me to be fear attacks, an exploding vehicle of some type in Russia. And then also I saw shooting on the streets of Moscow, pow-pow of some sort on the streets of Moscow. Now, both Putin and Zelensky are both in their 8 personal years in numerology. Zelensky is an Aquarius, always looking for balance. And then Putin is a Libra, in service to others. Interesting that he's a leader. Makes kind of sense. But they're both in the same year as each other. 8 personal year in numerology, which could also indicate a few things, starting with major economic issues. The 8 vibrations about money, finances, and the economy. So with Putin being in charge of economy in a country, this would have an effect on him. I would think that it would have likely more of a negative effect than anything in the way things are going. At the same time, they're both heading towards their 9-year of endings and death of cycles, which is likely one of the two powers will end. One of the two, if not both, actually. One of the two will end, I believe, in October or before October. That's one of the two. And then by the end of 2026, they'll both be gone. They'll both be out of it. Remember, next year's a 1 year. New beginnings, new start. So there can be peace that takes place. I hold that in the light. That we have this period of peace. And even the Holy Bible talks about that 7-year peace treaty. It only lasts 3.5 years, but 3.5 years of peace is better than no peace at all, right, friends? So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out and align to past predictions and visions. Now, Spirit shows me that China is working with Iran and even Russia. But somehow they are aiding Iran right now. Like I told you about that plane. They're aiding some way or another, which is not a good sign at all. This can definitely lead to WW3, which I don't think that's necessarily coming yet. I mean, we kind of are in it in a different way with trade conflicts. Nation is teaming up against nation, as it says in the Bible and prophecy. And even Nostradamus speaks about. I think it's all closing in closer to 2029. You know, that time period, 2027, 2028, 2029. Because by 2032, everything's different. including the geographic makeup of our planet, the maps that we use. It'll all be different. So it's going to be interesting. Now, Spirit again shows me that China is helping them because China depends on Iran's fuel and gas. And now they're going to be running really low. They might even be running out completely, at least from that supply chain, for quite a while, actually. So also, China is assisting them in their abilities to conduct cyber attacks. Spirit showed me like literally a training room where they were training these young people to do these cyber attacks. They have multiple like hidden rooms. It's kind of interesting. Almost looks like a government room with all the screens up and all. Really, really interesting. So as we've been warning for a while here, cyber attacks are coming, friends, on a very, very huge scale. And I expect to see them to begin to play out in the coming months, maybe even by the end of this month, and more so July into August. That's going to be interesting, friends. That's where we're going to have major power outages in different places. We saw what happened with Spain and France with their power outage. That ain't nothing compared to the big power outages that'll hit around the globe, everywhere. Even Moscow will go dark, says the spirits. I just saw that. So, all temporarily, but it's all happening. And it would make sense the alignments that are coming up in July and August as well, especially that Mercury retrograde energy shift. And summer's always pretty wild, right? Summers are always pretty wild. Summer is in that period of October. October is always a big one too. October, November. Right, let's get to November. Let's get to July first. So I tell you, friends, this is coming more so July, August with these cyber attacks and such. And Spirit said that they're going to go after the easy targets first. I don't know what that means. Maybe you can let us know in the comments what you think that means. But Spirit says they're going to go cyber attack the easy targets first. So prepare yourselves, friends. Prepare yourselves for potential power outages. And definitely outages related to cellular companies, cable, and internet providers. They'll be big ones. But they'll even hack into the banking systems and even try to attempt to affect the stock markets, Wall Street. So we'll see cyber attack on Wall Street. I see a big headline, cyber attack on Wall Street. Cyber attack on Wall Street. Spirit shows me that right now. So it's, what's today, June 17th? So we'll see how that plays out. So what good can come, friends? Well, there's a lot of good that can come. For starters, a short period of peace. That is going to come in the future. So be patient, says the spirits. It takes time to work out all those little details and those things in the future Earth. And when we reach that future Earth, we actually all will get along. How else can it benefit us for the good? Well, when it comes to radiation leaks, threats of radiation and problems even around nuclear power plants, especially during conflict or earthquakes, from climate shifting, this is going to bring more and more focus not just on the safety of these facilities and, leaking radiation and such, but more of an alternative solution. And that's what we need, an alternative solution. And they tell us that nuclear is the cleanest, best way, but we all know, I know you all know, friends, about Tesla's free energy and how ancient Egypt lit up their towns back in the day, and many others technologies of energy that have been suppressed for too long. So the good to come is this new forms of energy that are going to come into the light, and then safer ways to handle nuclear powers and nuclear energies. A much safer way. And a much safer way of getting rid of them, too. I don't know how that's possible, but I'm sure we're going to find out in the coming years. Another good thing that's going to come is a place where, and this may be hard for some to process, but this is what the Spirit says, a place for the Palestinian people. A true, safe Palestinian state is going to be formed sometime in the future. I don't know where, I don't know how, but that's just the message Spirit gave me. Another good that comes is when folks no longer judge others based on their religious or spiritual beliefs. A future world where folks are like-minded and gathered together in peace and harmony while accepting those that are different and have different mindsets. And I know it may sound really hard to believe, but believe it, friends, for this future place does exist. Civil unrest, or is it civil peace, friends? I prefer civil peace. Over the past weekend here in the United States, we saw at least 1 million folks take to the streets in cities across the country, every city across the country. And thankfully, for now anyway, they were mostly pretty much peaceful. Something I did not think was going to happen. So I admit, but it wasn't completely peaceful. Not completely. There were clashes once again with law enforcement in Seattle, Las Vegas, Nevada, and of course Los Angeles, California. And there were even gunshots that flew at protests in Utah. Something I said on Friday, beware. I have a feeling there may be bullets that fly. Well, they did in Utah. Thankfully, it could have been a heck of a lot worse. So thankfully, it was much more peaceful. And some were once again shooting fireworks, of course, towards the law enforcement folks just doing their jobs, tossing rocks, frozen water bottles, and so on. Sad, but it's the truth. It was happening. And yeah, there was still some looting in some places too. So as they say, there's a bad egg in every batch, friends. There's a bad egg in every batch. But luckily, there were only just a few bad eggs this time. So unfortunate. So what did the peaceful part of this protest, what did it do? Someone tell me, what did it do? No, don't tell me. I don't want to know in the comments. I take that back. Besides, it did curb people's boredom over the weekend, for sure. I suppose it also helps people channel their emotions. That's always a good thing, while getting, whatever point across that they're trying to get across. But sadly, this isn't really going to change anything anytime soon, friends. Not yet anyway, because we need more people to wake up. We need more people to wake up and come together, and that will happen. And it is happening. We just need to boost universe and speeding up this awakening, please. Speed it up a little faster, please. And I saw really disturbing videos of folks using vehicles. You know what for. Vehicles were actually, I saw one where vehicles were being blocked by the protesters. And folks driving, trying to drive, going a little too far with the gas pedal, if you know what I mean. Not good. But hey, when you're in fear for your life, people gather around your car, I'd hit the gas pedal too, I gotta be honest. Now, there were situations where that wasn't the case at all. I saw a situation where the police officer ran somebody over. Not cool. But, if they're going to jump out in front of you, what can you do? It's weird. I've been warning about this for a while, friends. I told you to stay away from the curb, stay away from that. And with these incoming energies and incoming solstice energies, it's not going to take much to trigger a person's emotions, causing them to react and sometimes overreact. So be aware of that in this coming time. Take it lightly, friends. Be a little more chill. And then we'll have a very peaceful next couple weeks. And I bet LA would be much different, with all the chaos, because LA, they're not done with LA. LA is just going to be even more and more chaotic. And you know what they need? They need this guy to be in charge of their law enforcement, because I really liked what he had to say. And it must have helped in his state, because they had no problems in the state in which he's in charge. Check it out.
There's no misunderstanding today. This is a peaceful protest. This is a riot. We can tell the difference. The governor can tell the difference. Our law enforcement officers can tell the difference. In the event you didn't get that, let me show you something. This is a peaceful protest. This is looting. If you loot, the next thing you can try to steal is something off of your food tray at the county jail, because you're going to jail. That's a guarantee. And we're going to enjoy taking you down there.
Well, that man certainly got his point across very quickly now, didn't he? I thought that was pretty funny. It's a good way of putting it. There is a difference between protesting and definitely a difference, a huge difference. And as I stated in the past, I've had visions of more rioting, like we saw back in 2020. And what we just saw was just basically a few places, nothing like 2020. And I felt that it could be actually worse than 2020. This is perhaps when the government or law enforcement overreacts to situations, as I said in the forecast for the week. So the past weekend may have been peaceful for the most part, pretty much, we can say, here in the United States anyway, not in other places. And we can also hope that it remains this way in the future. But sadly, I don't really feel like that's going to be the case, friends. And you want honesty from me, you want my intuition, don't kill the messenger if you don't like the message. Lots of people like to shoot this messenger. They try all the time in the comments, friends. Anyway, our friends down there in Ireland, well, they didn't have such a peaceful weekend, as they continue to see these anti-immigrant riots taking place for 5 straight days in a row. Might be 6 by now. And the footage is pretty crazy. Like this type of craziness, like all this type of craziness right here. And this is as indigenous Irish people are becoming violent, setting immigrant houses ablaze, clashing with law enforcement, and so forth. They're fed up. They're fed up with all their money going to people that aren't even from there. Sounds familiar, don't it? Sounds very familiar. Remember those little cash cards they were giving the people as they were coming across the border and all that money? That's as bad as the military parade that was $40 million. You know how many people you could feed with $40 million? So much for cutting the budget, huh? Which is interesting. I forgot to mention that whole military thing, parade in D.C., which I thought would go crazy, but the more I thought about it, D.C. was probably the safest place in the world to be on Saturday. No doubt about that. It might not be safe in the future, but it was safe then. You know, and you don't see something like that. You see a military parade in this country anyway when we win a conflict, which last happened, I think, in 1990s or something like that, if I remember correctly. Maybe 92. It was a while ago. This is something you see totalitarian regimes do. Show their strength. Show their strength. And you know, how interesting is this all, to me, perfectly aligned? Coming protests, take people's focus off of the world and focus on the protests, focus on this side and that side. While Israel launches their plan that they've had planned before Trump even came into office. Throw a military parade the same day, days after the attack in the Middle East. It just, to me, seems all very perfectly orchestrated and aligned. I don't believe in coincidences. All that happening just within the past, week. It's wild, friends. Wild. So again, going back to our friends in Ireland, you can see this article here that you can pause it to read it if you'd like. And it states the alleged cause of the riots. Regardless, friends, it's happening. It's happening in Ireland, and it's about to happen across the globe, as I've been warning and Spirit has been warning us for quite some time. So, what good is to come? That is our big question today. Well, it's going to be a while, but in the long run, we will look back at these times, especially our children and grandkids. They're going to look back at this time and wonder why we didn't get along. Like, what was wrong with them? What were they on? That's what they're going to say. What were they on? They didn't get along. Because they'll all be working in harmony in the future with one another in the future. And this is going to bring about changes when it comes to political structures and the way that we go about doing pretty much everything in this world. Remember, old structures collapse, new ones go into place. The way our laws are created, the way we vote, the way we live, eat, and most importantly, the way we vibe together in the future. That's the good that will come. Now, Spirit told me decades ago, in time, our divine creator, the good Lord, is going to force people of the earth to come together in pure love. Now, what would make that occur? When we actually finally realize why we're all here, when our memory comes back, we remember our true history, including our past lives, and we discover the truth of this slave planet that we are all entrapped on, whether we want to admit it or not. And it's all quickly going to shift and change. It's going to shift and change, and I feel that it is actually going to be Mother Earth. As I've been saying since I've been doing this for decades, it's going to be Mother Earth herself that brings us all together. And how's she going to do that? Well, she's going to declare war on us first, and then she'll be the peacemaker in the end. And that's how it's going to be. And that's how we're going to acquire this peace amongst one another. When things are shaking, you start to look at life completely differently. And that's what humanity needs, a great shaking before a greater awakening comes. Another item on today's delicious menu is the takedown of leaders. I touched on it a little bit. And you all know I've been telling you for a while that we would see many changes in power and so many more attempts, even successes, in taking down leaders and people in powerful positions. We just saw Israel again take out many on the list over the weekend in Iran. And a really sad event actually also played out here in the United States when this crazed man with a pow went into the two different residences of two different political representatives in Minnesota, causing a huge tragedy and loss. And so sad to see such events play out. So sad. That is so unnecessary. And this is what Spirit warned was going to happen, that we were going to see this. And it would appear that anyone in power right now or any political position is now at grave risk. It's like attack sides. It's almost like a modern day civil conflict, right? Civil war. It's like a modern day one. Not good. Not good. And in the past, I stated that we would see senators, congressmen, and even judges and justices becoming targets. Now, not just here in America, other countries as well. I feel Ireland is next on the list here. Ireland is next on the list to see a similar event take place when a group of angry folks head towards a politician's home. And I saw in a vision a fire attack on that home, which reminded me, we saw the fire attack on the Pennsylvania's governor's home, right? Burn out the front of his house and such. And, as we hear about this shooter and a list that he had, the Minnesota person, a list. Who else is on that list? They won't tell us. Someone said Tim Waltz, but we don't know. They're not going to tell us. And if they do, it could be backed by propaganda, and I wouldn't believe it anyway. He's certainly not the only one, this guy. He's not the only one, says the spirits. And he has chatted with others, so hopefully they'll figure that out. And as I stated in the past, they will soon attempt to take out Trump again. And I feel it's going to be in July. Maybe even by the end of this month, but July would make more sense. Trump is in his 2 years, so July is his 9 vibration of endings, death of cycles. So he needs to be really, really careful in the month of July, because that 9 could take him out. Sometimes people pass in that 9 vibration, and that would just be even worse. That would just make things even worse. Whether you like them or not, that would be not good. And I feel like it almost feels like a repeat of last July. And there are some very, very rich and powerful people that are not aligned with the president, that find him to be a threat to their agendas, especially over there in Europe between United Kingdom, France. He's not getting along too well with those folks. And they also have people in high places and high power. And, friends, you know where I'm going with this. So just yesterday in an interview, I thought this was interesting. Netanyahu claimed that Iran was behind the 2 attempts on Donald Trump before he was president. And I'm here to inform you, friends, that is a bunch of crap. That is not true. I assure you. I said it to you before it even happened that it was going to be. I told you I saw him on stage being hit and yada, yada, yada. And I told you where it was coming from, right from within inside this country itself. So, and the easiest way of saying it is JFK. Same scenario that played out last year. So, same with the golf course guy. Neither one of them were connected to Iran. So if they try to tell you that it would be 100% propaganda. Sure, they might have the desire to do so. They even threatened him. Sure, absolutely. And they might even have a plan to attempt in the future. But those last ones, according to Spirit, they were orchestrated from right here within this country by actual Americans, which is creepy in itself. And again, I'd relate this to the whole JFK thing, except they missed the last time. And hopefully they'll miss the next time too. So what good is to come from this? That is the question. Well, for starters, This is going to bring in more safety measures for folks deciding to run for office in the future, and other forms of protection being put into place for justices and even police officers who become targets of crazed individuals in their own homes. That's how I saw police officers. They'll start going to their homes. We'll hear stories about that. So of this future shift in protecting officials feels to me like it's digitally related in some way, which could be creepy if you think about it. It's probably AI or something. I don't know. But whatever it is, it felt like some type of digital technology that was going to protect folks. I don't know how. We'll have to sit back and wait and see. It's not there yet. It hasn't been invented. And I think this is quite a few years down the road. Quite a few. The other good thing that comes from this and new leadership is actually better leadership. New leadership and better leadership in the future. As I stated before, like here in the United States, there will be a new party that forms. And it won't, because right now the parties that we have is basically the uniparty. I mean, come on. How can you not see that it's just one big party? We need a separate party that's for the unity of the people. And that's what's going to play out in the future. I don't believe that may not come until the 2032 elections, because that's the new Earth time. That would make the most sense. I don't believe it's going to come the next election. That would be great if it did. And it's possible. And if that's going to happen here, it's going to happen in other countries as well, where things are going to be much different. So be patient, says the spirits. And eventually we're going to see new forms of voting going into place and new forms of government going into place that are actually for the better of the people. In due time, it's going to be the end of dictatorships across the globe and the end of enslavement that so many folks are still so blind to see that that's where we're at right now. But those chains are about to break free. Hallelujah. Sadly, over the past week, we saw another prediction yet come into fruition. I saw a major plane crash and felt that it was somehow connected to India. And I also saw the number 247 and wasn't sure how that could be or if it was connected. And I'm sure you're aware by now of the very sad and tragic accident, whatever you want to refer to it as, when a plane pretty much just dropped from the sky in India after takeoff, landing into a residential building and exploding like a time bomb. It was crazy. There were actually 243 people on board, and 242 of them perished, unfortunately. Very close to my 247. The Spirit showing me a 242 or a 247. I said 247, so I got to stick with that. So no cigar there, but pretty crazy. And there were a lot more than that if we count the people that were in the residential building that was hit. And miraculously, wow, what a miracle. One person managed to survive it. Did you see the size of that explosion? How do you walk out of that? That's mind-blowing to me. It's like you are like a superhero. Like literally. And get this. If you don't know already, he was sitting in seat number 11A. 11 is a master number in numerology, and that radiates with the angelic frequencies. I find that very interesting. Of all seats, that would be the seat that you would survive in. Makes total sense. Especially if we take the A. The A in numerology is also a 1. So that's seat 111. Wow, what a miracle. You know, what's interesting, too, is I very often sit in that seat 111 or 11A. I try to always get that seat, or at least 11, row 11. The reason being is in most airplanes, row 11 is the emergency fire exit. And I like to sit there because I'm 6'1" and I like to have a place to stretch. So I'm flying to Philly, and I'm pretty sure one of my seats is 11A. I'm pretty sure on that. I always usually pick it. If it's available, I go with that. And I always pick near the fire escape for the stretch in case there's a fire and I got to get out first. They're like, are you going to help anybody? I'm like, hell no, I'm the first one off this plane. No, I'm kidding. Of course I would help people. That's why I sit there. I'd be good at that. But I hope I never, ever, ever have to do that. That would freak me out. And I like that number too, 11. It's one of my master numbers. I love that number, 11, 22, 33. So overall, from all this craziness with airplanes, what good will come from it? Well, believe it or not, a lot of good. So the first thing to point out here is that we have the same astrological transits that are in place when that were also in place now, or coming up that were in place, excuse me, when the Wright brothers flew their first airplane. That should speak for itself right there. Same astrological transits happening now that happened when the Wright brothers flew their first airplane. Their aeroplane. So, pretty easy to say that, things are going to change when it comes to the air. The Wright brothers flew their first plane during these transits, and right now we're having a problem keeping planes in the sky, which is really interesting. Transits and numbers never lie, friends. And this is a sure sign that there's huge changes that are about to take place in the way we travel through the air. And not just the air either. All forms of travel, but especially the air. And we know the government has these saucers, call them what you will. We know they have them. And we know that they go faster, and we know all that and other amazing technology that the government hides from us. And they're being greedy. They're hoarding it from us and holding it all to themselves. Those greedy bees. But not for long, says the spirits. Not for long. Soon that too shall change. Soon that too. Could you imagine traveling, if we went to the airport and we had little saucer ships that we all sat around in a circle and got there in minutes? Awesome. That'd be awesome. Can't wait. Now imagine a future where we could travel 2, 3, 4, 5 times faster than we currently travel. Not just by air, but again, beneath the ground on high-speed vacuum-powered train systems. That's what Spirit says. They already have them. It's just when they're going to let us use them. And that's going to come into form. New forms of air and space travel are coming. And artificial intelligence is going to help to make a lot of this happen. And they're not. That's the other thing. They invented this artificial intelligence. And they try to, they don't realize that they're sabotaging themselves, because soon artificial intelligence is going to, let the cat out of the cage. Let the bird out of the cage. It's going to let the truth out. So they're not going to be able to hold it, and they're going to have to go with it. It's going to be interesting. Speaking of AI, Spirit showed me AI being encoded with some type of ancient ceremonial codes, which felt very demonic to me. Not all AI systems, but some AI systems, which really creeped me out. Literally being programmed with some type of ancient ceremonial coding systems. Sounds like they're putting demons in artificial intelligence. Creepy. I'm going to do a channel prediction. I haven't had time, but I'm going to do that likely tomorrow when you're watching this. Before you watch this, I'm going to do some channeling, and AI is one of the things I want to focus on and ask Spirit about. So it'll be interesting to see what Spirit tells us about that. So AI is going to be taking over the controls on many of the control towers too. The air control towers. Yeah. We see the problems with the delays and all with the control towers. Yeah, AI is going to be implemented with air control. And it might actually do a great job. I'm sure it will. We ain't going to have much of a choice with that one. And the best part of this whole thing, the good that's to come, is the safer forms of travel. Safer forms of travel and safer forms of vehicles that are literally going to be built in the future from some type of new futuristic type of material. I don't know what it is or how they come up with it. Excuse me. But they're going to make vehicles much safer upon impact. So, interesting. Now, you would think that'd be expensive. Like titanium vehicles. That'd be probably too heavy to drive, but some kind of new something. A combination of stuff, I would imagine, a new metal that it feels like it's man-made, like they're making it themselves. And I bet you AI is probably going to help with that. But it'll make vehicles safer on impact, which is great. So lots of good to come, friends. Lots of good to come. We just all got to hurry up and just wait. There was one wonderful story, in my opinion, that broke out over the past week that also goes back to my past predictions. And it was actually even in my June forecast and predictions, where I stated that we would start to see major arrests taking place around these creepers. You know the kind of creepers I'm talking about. And the rescue, even more importantly, the rescue of the little ones. Yes, those caught up in traffic, as we say. And kudos to our law enforcement and FBI down there in Texas for forming this huge task force referred to as Operation Satiria Shield. Soteria shield. I guess that's what that says. Don't correct me in the comments. Thank you. Awesome. And as you see here, FBI rescues 109 little ones while arresting 244 creepers. Amen. Hallelujah. Bye-bye. Now, it'll be interesting. I wish we could find out if they get out. A lot of times people get arrested and they get out really quick. But Spirit told us huge, major, rescues and stuff will take place. So what good is to come from this? Well, that's already good. That's a good story already. But a whole lot as we finally begin to see law enforcement agencies and even militaries organizing these amazing rescue missions and takedowns of these creepers who get them all caught up in traffic. So I've made some past predictions where I saw a large rescues, plural, folks underground. And I saw them coming out, some of them blinded by the light, and some were blindfolded, likely due to the fact that they were in the dark for so long. So there is lots of good coming out when it comes to breaking apart these crime rings. And better yet, those connected to these crime rings who are celebrities, politicians, and higher ups. It's coming, baby. Be patient. It's coming. Lastly, I would like to take you to some strange events that continue to play out in our skies. You may recall a prediction where Spirit told us that there would be 2 moons. Told me, and then I told you. 2 moons. And not only that, strange planets that would show up in our, galaxy and around the Earth, and other strange anomalies in the sky. Well, first, check out this footage of the sun floating in the clouds from an airplane view. Shouldn't the sun be in space? Why is the sun floating in the clouds? And watch this strange sunset that follows. And how this strange sunset and how it completely changes as it's going down. Very, very strange, wouldn't you say, friends? Very strange. Now, how about these 2 moons? 2 moons, friends. 2 moons. Here's a clip of a guy outside with his camera, and he shows you the moon. At least it looks like the moon. But then when he scans over, what is that? The moon? So which moon is the moon? Which moon is real? Maybe they're both fake. Or maybe it's fake footage, as many people would likely like to believe or point their finger at. Don't know. By the sound and all, I didn't play the sound for you, but by the sound and all, it seemed pretty real to me. And Spirit did tell us about 2 moons. Now, whether it's real or not, personally, I like to see things myself to believe it. So I'm one of them kind of people. I got to see it to believe it. I never disbelieved in UFOs, but I also needed to see one to say I 100% believe. And I've seen them, so I 100% believe. And I've had my own encounters. But things like that, that's how I am. I got to see it. So I'm not dissing the fact that this could be real footage of the person with the 2 moons. I have no doubt that it probably is real. Because Spirit told us we were going to be seeing 2 moons soon. And other things in the sky. And weird activity with the planet and the sun and the moon. So yeah, it could be. But I want to see it for myself. I go out all the time constantly looking at the sky. Constantly sit out front and look at the sky. Always looking at the sky. Always keep your eyes to the skies, as the Spirit says. So other than that, what good is to come? Well, there's a lot of good to come. We are going to become more and more aware of our surroundings. We're going to begin to look up more often at the skies and explore nighttime skies. I remember when we were kids, we used to lay on the ground, especially when I was a kid. My grandparents were in Marlton. It was all farmland then. And me and my cousins, we'd lay on the ground and look at the stars and look at the skies, even during the day. Did that all the time as kids. I'm still a sky watcher and sky looker. So that's what this is going to do. This is going to make people more aware of their surroundings, not just the sky, but their surroundings. They'll begin to look up into the sky more, exploring the nighttime and daytime skies, instead of drowning in their phones and other technology. Coming sky events are actually going to bring people together as folks gather outside in mass numbers to observe the strange activity that's happening. This is going to open up conversations and actually is going to bring people together. So there is good to come. Lots of good to come. So what good is there to come, friends? There's lots of good to come. And remember, the way to get good out there is just to be good to yourself first. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Be the inspiration that you want to see in the world. We got to do that on an individual basis. Not trying to force other people to awaken or force other people to raise their vibrations. That annoys me when people say, you need to raise your vibration. No, you need to raise your vibration because you just said that. That's not something to say. That's like telling somebody that they need to lose weight or they need to gain weight. Don't tell people that. That's just rude. Raise your own vibration. Don't worry about other people's vibrations. And if you see somebody who needs to raise their vibration, just avoid them. It's a much better world when you focus on yourself and inspiring. Be good to you, be good to those you encounter, and be good to all those around you in your daily life. This is an amazing time. It's an amazing time to be alive. It may not appear like that to some people due to the chaos and the things that are breaking out globally, but it truly is an amazing time. Prophecies all unfolding in front of our eyes. Prophecies that they've been talking about for hundreds of years, thinking they were happening. But now they are happening, and we get to be a part of that. So that's the good to come. Lots of good to come. So focus on that good. Hold in the light the future that you want to live in. Because remember, your mind is powerful. You manifest the life through your vibration. So changing your thought process, instead of saying I don't have or I don't have enough, change that thought process. Every day say I am abundant and have everything I need. The universe blesses me with everything I need. Once you shift that, shift your thoughts is your vibration, then you'll start to attract even more amazing good into your life. Because there are good things happening and many more good things to come. So I very much hope that you enjoyed this episode number 171, getting up there in numbers, friends. Thank you to all the contributors to this channel, and then all the members of the Subscribe Star and the members of the communities that make this free content possible for everybody else. I thank you with infinite love and gratitude. Don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter below. And remember, you can find me at spiritmanjt.com. That's easy. Or josephtittel.com. If you want information on a private session or anything like that, check it out. And find me on all the other platforms, social media platforms down below, and give me a follow. And if you just subscribed to the channel and you just subscribed and became a part of the tribe, welcome to the tribe, baby, with big open air hugs. We're so glad to have you here. And until the next time, friends, remember to celebrate life, celebrate you. And most importantly, remember to be bold, be true, be kind, be you. Let your light shine ever so brightly. And have a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste and much love, friends. Much love.